Hey guys, so I remade the drop from Martin Garrix's In the Name of Love, and it sounds like this. And what I want to do is tell you what I learned about making your vocal chop leads more alive and more realistic. And this is like a really big trick that I've learned from listening to Martin Garrix over the years and remaking countless Martin Garrix pieces for YouTube videos. Let me just cover this because I know you guys will ask what layers I use to make this whole drop. Well, we have drums. The key to the making your drums pop is the cymbal enhancement on each kick. So here's without the cymbal. And then here's with the cymbal. The job of that cymbal is to enhance this bass line with these chords. These are just sidechaining with Shaperbox. So let's focus in on this lead. Like here's layer number 1. Layer 2 sounds like that. So what I've kind of figured out about this whole sound that Garrix has in his vocal leads is there's like a realistic component to the chop leads that he usually has in his drops. And what I did is I went onto splice.com and I looked for single note vocal chops, like vocal one shots, and then I found that one, and I found one other one. And so then what you do is after you get those vocal one shots, you go into your instruments and load up a sampler. Any DAW will do this. In Ableton, you can just slide the sample right into Ableton and start messing with it that way, or you can load up a sampler and do it the same way as this so that your vocal chop is transferable to your MIDI keyboard. So I drug that vocal chop into this EXS24 sampler. When you click edit, this is where you drag the sample in. So you get your sample and you click it and drag it into here, and like I said, it's now playable on the MIDI keyboard. So I did that, and I got another vocal sample, different vocal sample, but very similar sounding, and it sounds like this. You'll see it's like almost exactly the same, and I did the same thing. I dragged it into the ESX24 sampler right here, so that's playable on MIDI keyboard or in the MIDI piano roll. But for this one, I put it an octave above the original. So here was the original. And I noticed that vocal chops that Martin Garrix has a couple octaves layered in his vocal chop leads. So that's the sound you get when you layer them on top of each other. Here's without the high octave layer. And here's with the high octave layer. And another thing, I want you to key in on that vibrato. When you up pitch natural vibrato, it sounds really good. So in your one shots, your vocal one shots, you want to find a vocal one shot that has that natural vibrato at the end of it. So if we listen to this, listen to the natural vibrato. So at the end there, you can hear her voice start to flutter, and that's what you're looking for in these vocal one shots. The next step in making these sound more real is I just beefed them up with some OTT. Everything you see here, like the EQ is not really doing anything, direction mixer is not doing anything. So this is what it sounds like with OTT, and then I added little altar boy to this layer. So that's with little altar boy. This is without. So it kind of breaks it up, makes it sound a little bit more interesting. This is a decent little pitch shifting plugin. I don't really like it. It's kind of dirty. It doesn't sound that good all the time, but in this case, it did work. I do not recommend that plugin though. If you can get the same effect using other methods, then use other methods because they sound better. So this is what I had up until this point. OTT, saturation, a little bit of EQing, and Bit Crusher was the big guy here. And then I used Logic Pro X bit crushing plugin. In Ableton and FL Studio, you guys have bit crushing plugins that work the same. But what I did is, as I pumped up the drive here to make it push. So listen, without bit crusher versus with bit crusher, it just pushes so much harder, and that sounded a lot better with reverb on it. And all I did was pump up the drive and resolution. So in your bit crushing plugins in other DAWs, you're going to want to pump the drive, a little bit of resolution degrading. And look, I didn't even downsample this at all. This was the most important thing I did though, the Shaperbox. So I added the reverb obviously, but the Shaperbox is kind of insane. I never did this before, but it sounded really cool. I fluttered the filter LFO. See how it's like kind of waving now? If I pump it all the way up, which is not how I'm going to have it, but it flutters, so I just took the mix down a little bit. You could hear how it kind of adds a little bit of vibrato, and that adds the realness to it. So like when I was listening to the Martin Garrix version of this song, all of his vocal chops have this flutter in it, this realness to it. And what this flutter does is it just adds that real vibrato sound to it. Cool, you could do this trick with tremolo if you don't have Shaperbox. You could do it with automation, although it might be a little taxing to do with automation. And obviously with chroma reverb. If you guys would like to learn how I sound design this entire drop from scratch, I actually post exclusive videos like that in my premium chat room that all course owners get access to. So if you would like to join the EDM bootcamp to learn things like mixing, sound design, chords, melodies, and song arrangement, I left a link for you at the top of the description below. I look forward to seeing you in there.